Class 1 at the South Devon Rudolf Steiner School. Only now, aged 6 to 7, are the children starting formally to learn to read and write. And like much of the teaching in Steiner schools, music and art are incorporated into the lessons throughout childhood. The South Devon School is one of 35 Steiner Waldorf schools in Britain. The first Waldorf school was founded by Steiner in 1919 at the request of Emil Molt, owner of the Waldorf cigarette factory in Stuttgart, who wanted an education for the children of his employees that prepared them for life in its fullest sense. And life in its fullest sense means educating hands and heart as well as head. Until the children go into Class 1 around the age of 7, the emphasis is on play, imitation and on rhythm. Baking on Monday, painting on Wednesday, an expedition on Thursday and so on. And on stories which are told rather than read by the teacher. And Steiner's picture of child development is not only of children growing up and thereby learning the ways of the world, but also of children growing down, bringing into life their own unique biographies, as he saw it from many lifetimes. And this needs time to build a strong and firm foundation so that each child can not only then face the world as it is, but also develop the strength of character to maybe change it. Songs and ring games are another important ingredient in the early years. Ideally, dexterity in their bodies will gradually translate into dexterity in how they think and create. Much of what the children do, not just in the kindergarten, is designed to counteract what is increasingly recognized in the modern world as an erosion of childhood. A concern that extends far beyond the Waldorf school movement. As at the Brighton Steiner School, these 9-year-olds are also not just studying farming, but actually doing it as part of what is called main lesson. One particular subject taught for the first 2 hours every morning over a period of 3 or 4 weeks. Around this age, most children start to take a new interest in the world around them, whilst also experiencing a certain separation from that world. Now they begin to study science, and in mathematics the concept of fractions.
Still waiting for silence. Now, who remembers which are those potatoes from the ones we planted? Are they early? Only early? Lily? First early, thank you. What else have we got here?
Main crop.
Main crop? Yeah, what else? Lily, me?
Early the second.
Phrase that differently?
Second early.
Thank you. Who can show me blight in this potato? Lily, show something to me. Can you see? I can see from where I am. Quite right. Yeah? Every digger should have 2 other ones working together. So should be groups of 3. A digger and 2 collecting the potatoes. The plants should all be brought back here, please. Yeah, girls? That's perfect. No, that's fine. So one on this side. You are too many here.
Well, they really seem to be enjoying themselves. I thought children weren't meant to like gardening.
They like gardening very much because they can see the end result. So they've been involved in the ploughing of this field, well, spreading the muck, the ploughing of the field, which was done by horses. So they actually pulled the plough. So they had What is that?
When can we see the lamb?
Soon. Yeah?
That's a big one.
How many?
7,
Very gentle.
9,
Whoa, wow, look at that.
14, 16.
They respond very well to the activities we propose. It's the practical ones there. Yes, let's do it. And there's a real enthusiasm that comes from them.
Where are you from?
I'm from Brazil.
Brazil.
I'm from Brazil, yeah.
So there are Waldorf schools in Brazil too.
There are Waldorf schools in Brazil,
Yeah.
but I wasn't connected to schools there. I was connected to the biodynamic impulse, but not to schools.
Here you're doing both.
That's right, yeah, sort of bringing them together, really. Yeah.
Andre is also helping this class to build a stall from which they can sell the vegetables. Building is another subject taught at this age: planning, measuring and execution.
Let's make a pile over there, okay? Down there.
The curriculum in Steiner schools is designed to introduce subjects when they resonate and correspond to where the child is at in his or her development. Insight into what you teach when, and a recognition of distinct 7-year phases in child development were two of Steiner's special contributions to education.
What is this, Declan?
That's to support, that's to attach the two poles together to make them both steady.
Yeah, and what else? Jude?
Also, so when we put the roof on, you don't have to put it exactly on the top of the pole, we can put it on the sign bit. Does it hold up the roof?
Well, it will. Like Jude said, what will be sitting here? That some of
But not all teaching in Steiner schools takes place outdoors. Biology is the main lesson subject for Class 6 for the next 3 weeks. From Class 1 to 8, the children who are unstreamed have the same teacher for these main lesson subjects, whether it be science, history, mathematics or geography. These key subjects form the core of the Waldorf curriculum.
How does the queen ant start to establish her colony after she's mated with the drone on her nuptial flight? Aggie?
She digs a hole and then carries all the earth out of the hole so she can have more space to dig.
Excellent, thank you.
Alexa Smith will stay with this group of children until they go into the upper school around the age of 15. This can mean the children having the same class teacher for 8 years, ideally creating a bond between teacher and pupils that goes way beyond the actual knowledge imparted. For the rest of the school day, the children will be taught by specialist teachers, languages, games, crafts, etc. I asked the teacher of Class 2 what attracted parents to their school.
Well, I think there are an awful lot of parents who come to our schools and sense that what's there is wholesome and good for the children, and they're looking for, childhood with all the light and joy that childhood brings, and quite often seeing in many schools that children in a way trying to be moulded into something which isn't child friendly, and they see that in our schools we celebrate childhood and we try to bring things which actually really nurture and nourish and feed where the children are actually at, and so they'll see that, they'll sense that, and then they bring their children. And I think it's up to us to make what we do available and understandable in terms which don't make people feel that it's something weird that's behind it. Because I firmly believe it is not something weird. The sun with loving light makes bright for me each day. The soul with spirit power gives strength unto my limbs. I've been doing this for 20 years, and it really, really does nurture and nourish those children, and they are free afterwards. They're not coming out having to believe in any particular belief system or anything. They're totally free, but they've been nourished as human beings.
Ian Powell teaches art and the history of art as well as drama to the upper school. Although there tend to be no internal exams in Steiner Waldorf schools, the pupils do take state examinations. I asked Ian about the word results, a label that is increasingly associated with a school's performance and success.
For me, there's no such thing. One of the frustrations, if you think about that as a frustration, is that I will never see the results of my work until they come back to me when they're at least over 35 or 42. And that's from a strong belief that they are continually growing. I mean, to think that a young person is only a summation of the results of, if it's GCSEs or A-levels or even a degree, if that's all that the person is, that really is a very slight on the individual, because we all know that, in fact, you're still developing. So I'm really well aware that anything I do here, if it's an examinable, is purely to allow them to go on to the next phase of study. It has nothing to do with the result. No, again, time. Victor! How'd you come in about? Bobby! Oh!
I then asked Ian how he related, as a teacher, to what Steiner said and wrote about karma and reincarnation.
I think subliminally, as a teacher, when you've been working long enough, I think what starts to happen is you realise there's more to this young person than just the face value that you're seeing or the what can become. There's something that they're bringing with them. Yes, there's hereditary, that's true too. There's the family, there's their society, but there's something else, and you become aware of the something else very often. One doesn't look at it or dwell on it or try to research it because it's not within our remit to do so, but you're certainly aware that there's another tool, there's another something there that's happening that needs resolution or needs to be resolved, or that you allow the young person to perceive through doing the activities that we do. They don't see it as karma, of course, but maybe when they're 35, 42, something might happen in their lives that they think, I was dealing with something that I had to work out at that age, even though I didn't know it.
The school's doctor is James Dyson. In addition to his orthodox medical qualifications, he has made an in-depth study of Steiner's medically related lectures and writings, and of the considerable research that these insights have inspired into a greater understanding of the human being. In Gauguin's words, what are we? I asked James how these other perspectives informed his work as a doctor.
Well, that's a big question, isn't it? Well, just looking out of the window just now, what I was particularly interested in was observing movement, how children move. And I think that's as good a place to start as any, because movement speaks the language, not just in the ordinary neurological sense, but movement and gesture speak the language of the soul, they speak the language of development. They show us how a child is relating to the environment, for instance. And nowadays, particularly, harmonious movement is often the exception rather than the rule.
And why is this happening?
I think that young children nowadays are subject to a far higher level of sensory stimulation than they were in the past, from a much earlier age. Be it in the form of IT and screens, or in other ways too. And at the same time, children are deprived of the kind of traditional possibilities of movement through which, your average child was exposed 30, 40, 50 years ago.
Waldorf schools are almost unique in not introducing computers until the upper school, and then only gradually. Many parents and educationalists these days share their view that early childhood should be less focused on information technology and generally less pressured.
The key theme of what Steiner brought as a picture for child development, namely that up until neurological maturity has reached a certain level, in the 6th, 7th year of life, you should not tax the nervous system cognitively, but you should work very much with the faculty of imitation and creative play and stimulate that.
And for what reason? Why shouldn't you tax the brain? I mean, that's what you're talking about, isn't it?
I think the simplest way of putting it is that if you're still laying the tracks for the tram line, you don't drive the tram along.